Hey everyone, this is Brandon Krieger and Monty. This is Cybersecurity for you and your business. Today we're going to be talking about what wares do you need to know about. Spyware, Adware, malware, all the great wares that are out there that are attacking
Right.
you. Hey Monty, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Oh, amazing. Had a great long weekend. A lot of great things happened. But again, when it comes to the cybersecurity world, there's always something going on.
Well, at least you guys had a vacation. I mean, you had a holiday, right?
Yeah. I had a holiday, which was good. Had some time off, had some fun.
What do you call that holiday out there?
It's Victoria Day.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I think we have one coming up, Labor Memorial or something. Hope people don't take offense to the idea that I'm not keeping track of the specific names, but sometimes as a self-employed business owner, you don't put as much emphasis on what happens between the holidays and the regular days as much, depending upon how you operate, right?
Well, I think that's the one thing with being an entrepreneur, and I'm sure all entrepreneurs can contest to this. You get so caught up in your business, and depending on your schedule and all that, holidays just kind of bypass you, because when you're working in a company, everyone around you is kind of saying, "Oh, this holiday is coming up. What are you going to do for that?" So the water cooler chat is going on. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're meeting and you're consulting, running around, you kind of miss the water cooler chat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. People once upon a time they talked about what holidays are coming up and all that. But yeah, as you mentioned, you don't really get that type of interaction. So there's good news and bad news. You guys, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, the good news, I think you get to concentrate a lot more and on those tasks and making sure they're taken care of without a whole lot of distractions. But yeah, some of the going back and forth with the ideas and such, that's kind of important too. So make sure you develop a network if you can, where you still get a chance to interact with some real people, just to make sure what happens.
You know what's going on in the world, that you're not like at your office and your desk, and at your maybe you have your own office space and you're working with your staff, or maybe you're working out at your home, right? Whatever that may be. You just make sure you connect with people, kind of see what's going on in the outside world.
Well, certain things may be happening out there that may be important, Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Once in a while we find something happening.
True. So this week I was reading, I get a magazine. You guys can see it here. It's called Security Magazine. And I get that. And one of the things they were talking about, one of the articles in it, they were actually talking about how small to medium-sized businesses over the next year to 4 years are going to be compromised more than ever before. And The reason why that is because we're finding is that they're not implementing security practices because it's a second thought.
Okay.
The guy that I'm just going to pull up the article here. The guy that did the article, the writer, was talking about how he was doing penetration testing, and they asked him, like, one of the questions was asked is, what's your thoughts of the security industry and what's going on right now with companies? And one of the things he came up with, he goes, it surprises me, and this is where it's a shocker. It surprises me when there's security methodologies put in place versus it doesn't shock me when there isn't.
Oh, put in place. It was a shocker.
Exactly. So his problem, right? And this is where I was getting out of the article and reading through it. His name's Christopher Cameljo, Camejo, and he was talking about how he does red team penetration testing, and he goes into companies and tests their security and all that. And he's saying that majority of companies that he tests, there is very little or no security in place.
Wow, see, that's crazy.
That's what he was getting down. So it shocks him when there is a security, methodology or something in place.
That's the exception. That's the exception, basically.
To him, it was a shocker to see that someone's actually put a really good security policy, procedure, a technical solution, and then it's like, oh my God, that's great. He was actually talking in the article how he went into a hospital and hooked into a voice over IP phone jack and was able to get through the whole network.
Oh, okay. So not only, let me make sure I understand this, not only was he surprised when he found a security program in place, but also we have to take a look at the various levels in terms of whether or not they're actually doing a good job. Now, I imagine he's probably wasn't too impressed what he found overall as far as proper implementation, right?
Well, his article was basically saying that majority of his job is going in saying, look, you know what? There is no security here. There's like zero or very little, and you need to implement at least this standard.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because again, he's walking into a building that, like I said, I'm using an example of a hospital he talks about in this article. He walked into a hospital, sat in front of the actual security office desk where there was phones around him. He plugged in a jack to his laptop, voice over IP, and was able to get on that phone jack while the security was watching him. He was able to get access to the entire network. And guys, so you guys understand what I'm talking about, the entire network, client, like patient files, staffing files. He was able to get a doctor's profile. He was able to get access to locking and unlocking the doors of the building, lighting, you name it. He was able to get full access from that voiceover. He called it a flat network. Right, so you guys, IT guys, are out there. Most times the networks are segregated, right, and divided into VLANs. This one was a flat network, so he was able to log into one and get access right across the board. You know, client files, patient files. He was in I think he was talking about, he was able to see client, like patient scans, like just by sitting at this one area in the common area of the hospital. So this is what we're talking about. You know, we're talking about a hospital who should be spending, and this is like they have the HIPAA compliance and standards that they need to meet. Well, I mean, if he can walk in there and get access to the records, the client records, well, there goes the HIPAA standards.
Yeah.
We're talking about this, and the reason why I'm kind of showing this example is if that can happen to a hospital that's supposed to have, you know, good security policies and procedures, what happens to your business? You know, have you assessed or done an evaluation on your business to say, what security policies do I have in place? What personnel policies? What technical, you know, solutions or policies that you have in place? What technical, you know, implementations do you have? Like firewalls? Do you have, you know, a router solution? Do you have secure passwords? Like, do you have antivirus? Like, what do you have in place in your business that you're using that someone like me or Monty cannot just walk into your business and sit down and get, you know, and carte blanche. Now, I want to make this clear. This guy didn't hack. He didn't use any password penetration tools, nothing. He literally just docked his system and was able to get in and started to surf around. Like, we're talking about, like, you got basic entry and then penetration testing. He was saying he didn't even start his penetration testing to the point where he was already into the network at a low level.
Okay, so there's basically no skills were required in that particular situation. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we want to get to a situation where we're not only requiring that you have some sort of skills, but we want to make things a little bit more difficult, as difficult as possible to keep the bad guys out.
Well, I mean, this is the thing we're talking about security. It's a level of deterrence, right? The more they have to go through, the harder it is for them to compromise. So, and hopefully you have logging tools that are there that when they start to penetrate one area, there's alerts that come up that now you can start to be on the blue team side of the security and start to lock things down or even disconnect if you have to. But you're able to secure your network that they don't get through to the main data or the main, you know, kind of golden nugget that they're trying to get to. You have these level of securities and these, you know, alerts and these, you know, systems that are in place that notify you that, oh my God, something's happened. There's a denial of service attack. There's an unauthorized access, whatever that may be.
Now, speaking of current events, there's another strategy that the government is using right now. Mm-hmm. They're not so much the government, but there's something called fake direct denial of service attacks.
Okay.
And Brandon, me and you talk a lot about social engineering, mm-hmm. But check this out. Now I'm not even bringing down your servers and overwhelming your network. I'm threatening to do this. So I call your company or contact your company in one manner or the other, and I threaten a DDoS or a DD OS, attacked.
So,
Okay.
let's what's that acronym stand for? So everyone kind of
know. The denial of service.
Well, there's there's DOS.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
And there's DDoS. So it's DOS is a denial of service attack, which is basically you're attacking, one bot, one thing is attacking a device. And there's a distributed denial of service attack where it's multiple devices attacking one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We got the DDoS. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's happening is now we have the threat of this type of attack that's what they're using now to try and compel your company to pay the ransom, the Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency or whatever they're trying to get from you. So that's one thing that they're doing now. So that's even more a reason to make sure you have your backups and such.
Well, I mean, it's so true. I mean, you're talking about that, and something that I've posted on the social sites, and as well as, I mean, if you guys subscribe to my newsletter, because it's tax season now, hackers are coming out, and what they're doing is it's a Canadian Revenue Agency, CRA. They're trying to do a compromise that way, where they're calling people and threatening them.
Oh, okay.
So there's either an affidavit, and I went through 7 different calls in one day, letting them try to compromise me, trying to find out, what social engineering techniques were they using to compromise me.
Exactly.
So one thing what they use is they use a fear state. So they use the legalities. So what they're asking is they call and say they're Officer John White, Matthew Stevenson. So at one point I made a joke with one guy and he got very upset. I'm like, oh, they sound like 2 first names. And he hung up on me. So I was like, okay.
Right.
So I got a call again, probably about an hour or 2 later. Again, another officer, right, from CRA, and telling me that there's an affidavit and a warrant out for my arrest. Right. That if I didn't, because I didn't file my taxes properly. So I let them go through, and I acted a little bit more concerned, a little bit more worried to kind of let them go through their process. And they were giving me these codes, these CRA codes and legal codes, which were not valid codes. And I'll go into that a little bit later. But yeah, they weren't valid codes. They were telling me all these things.
Really?
Yeah. So what happened was, by the end, then they tell me there's this amount. There's an amount I have to pay. They were telling me there's like $3,500 that I had to pay. If I didn't pay it by this time, that the police officer was going to come to my door and arrest me, and I was going to affect my credit rating. I was going to lose my job. I was going to do all these things. They were going to put it publicly that I was, I did this, and my record be affected, but both legally as well as, my credit record. So they kind of go through all different things at all different, areas of psychologically trying to attack me.
Right.
And then when I didn't bite, I said, okay, you know what? Thank you so much. I'll actually call and make a payment arrangement. They said any payment arrangements that I made with CRA would be invalid. I could only pay through them.
Oh, of course. Right.
Right. I can only pay through them. So now they isolated me down to, first they tried to scare me, put me in a fear state, and then they kept trying to isolate me to them. And then eventually what happened was I was like, okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I'll just have to think about it. Then they threatened me, physically threatened me. Well, what we'll do is we'll come to your house and we'll take you.
Oh, really?
So I was like, okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Since you understand where I live, you can come and if you feel it necessary that you have to arrest me or whatever,
wow.
I will make sure I contact my lawyer. And then they hung up. So what happened was I went through that process to not just for myself for research and investigation, but to understand how to, teach you guys that these calls are happening on all different levels. So we're using CRA as an example of compromise. But what happens is they put you in a state where you're busy, you're doing things, you're all around, and all of a sudden you get this call that now there's a warrant for your arrest. Well, if you're not logically thinking, you're not present, you might go, oh my God, it's an officer, someone of authority, now saying this. It's CRA, which must be, it's a valid company, organization, whatever that may be, must be important. Now they're calling me. So they put you in this fear state, and then they keep trying to escalate that fear state to make sure that you'll take action. And they scare you, and they keep trying to scare you. Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go. I'm sorry. Go on.
So there was an article, and again, with my feeds that are out there that I post out, there was actually a news feed that was showing that this scam was going on. Also, I called the RCMP, which is our equivalent of your FBI in the States, right? So I called them and said, hey, you know what? I'm getting this call. I wanted to report it. And they said they're getting roughly anywhere from 500 to 1,000 calls per day of people calling in saying this is happening to them. In tears, they paid. What do? They don't want to. So this information needs to get out there, and it's scary because this is part of what we talked about is social engineering, right? It's somewhere where they call vishing, VISHING.
Exactly.
They're trying to get you over the phone, and they're trying to scare you. So I mean, this is where it comes, and here's a little bit of a personal, goal for me is I want this to get out. This is why we're doing this show. I want this to get out to more and more people because talking to the RCMP officer, and I call RCMP directly, and hearing the stories that she had to tell me of people just in tears shows me how important this is for cybersecurity literacy that Monty talks about, and cybersecurity awareness. And security awareness is so essential that we need to get out more and more. That if you're not sharing this out, that you're doing a disservice to the people around you.
Right. No, it's really easy to when we learn that these situations happen. Blabs like these, posts, things that you find on the internet. When you find something interesting, we really do have to share that information out. It's one thing to share the cute cat videos and pictures of our vacations or whatever else, but at the same time, don't hesitate to show someone that there's a threat out there, and that maybe you came close to being a victim, falling prey to the threat yourself, and you pass along that particular information to someone. Share that out as well amongst the various social media networks, because we need to raise the bar significantly higher, because some of the numbers behind the stories are astronomical. You got the Nigerian scams, that's netting those individuals up to $5 billion a year. Mm-hmm. So you think about it, there's a significant incentive for those people to continue those operations, and they are operations. They're massive in nature. Some of the exposés that you see on TV, for instance, they show call centers. They show 50 people or whatever. Calling out, trying to pretend like they're part of some government agency for the respective country that you're in, and that's what they do. They put a lot of resources, a lot of financial human resources into making sure that they reach as many people as possible. Because again, if you can just reach a very small percentage of people and get 30,000 from this one, who knows, 70, 80,000 from the other one, then that's exactly what happens. You end up accomplishing your goal.
Even the scary thing is, I know you're talking about tens of thousands, but it's even the small numbers of 500 to 5,000, where you look at the numbers game these guys are playing, and they can get 500 or 1,000 or $2,000 off someone and compromise them. It's one of those things that they just keep going. It keeps fueling the funnel.
Yeah. Welcome, Scott. You're absolutely, you jumped out already. You're absolutely right. But we have tools now, and see this, Bab, we're going to talk about some very specific tools also that you guys can implement. Some of them may cost you something, but again, let's take a look at the payback. Okay, if I pay a very small fraction of the cost, towards getting the tools, then and as compared to what I potentially could lose, then that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make sure that you invest in the necessary places to protect yourself and your business. One thing that I ran across was this Let's Encrypt certificate. Have you ever heard of the Let's Encrypt? What do you think about that?
The Let's Encrypt? No, I haven't come across one.
Yeah, Let's Encrypt seems to be a free certificate offered by the Security Research Group, and they are growing exponentially. And it seems like the main purpose is just basically to, I think you talked about clear text being used rampantly, and it's all over the internet, and we're not taking we completely taking for granted how valuable clear text is.
Right.
You want to review real quickly for the people who are going to come on board later on and or review the playback in terms of what clear text is and why it's important for us to keep in mind in terms of what's going on with that.
Well, I mean, Monty's bringing up a good point. Is that any data that we have out that's going on the internet? So you're looking at email, you're looking at your text, you're looking at your shared documents, all that. It's all clear text when it's not going over a secure, like HTTPS, secure type communication. So a lot of people that we're talking to now is, how do you encrypt that? Now, we're talking about social media, for example. Social media, when you're talking about plain text, think about all the stuff you're tweeting out, all the stuff that you're posting on Facebook, that you're going out, you're doing dog walking, whatever that may be, you're selling your business. A lot of that is in clear text, because what happens is when it's in clear text, it gets categorized and cached by the search engines, and people are able to see it and read it. Well, when it's clear text like that, it gets distributed. Well, we're talking about your personal identifiable information, the things that you're doing, your business information, all should be encrypted, so it's not able to be shared. And this is what we talked about a few episodes ago, is that, how to encrypt it. And then, there's security certificates, there's simple tools, like even using packaging tools like 7-Zip, 7-Up, and then WinZip, right, and things like that, where you can zip your files and then encrypt them by using a secure key. Well, what Monty's bringing up here is that here's another way of using a secure certificate, and this is how it works: is that you have a private key. When you create a secure certificate, you have a private key, which is your key, and you have a public key that you share. So if me and Monty were going back and forth and sharing information, I would give him the public key of my security protocol that I'm using for encryption. He would use that key to unencrypt any data that I sent him. And then I would always keep my private key. So that's really kind of a nutshell how encryption works.
And believe it or not, this particular Let's Encrypt seems to be free. So I'm not endorsing this product at all, but we have access to experts in the security field, including ourselves, and we like to just make these things available to you so you can do some research and contact your hosting company, contact your website developer, let them know that if we can all cut down on the significant amount of clear text that's floating out there on the internet, then that means there's less information, because typically it's all about data. We take for granted, for instance, what it means to have so much data about us and what we're doing and where we're going and all that on the internet. So if every time we go to any website and do the things that we do online, if most of that information, the web browsing that we do, if most of that can be cut down significantly and encrypted, then guess what? There's going to be less data mining, less correlating of information about who I am, where Brandon went, where he's not. If he's not at home, that's valuable information. If he's on vacation, that's valuable information. If he has some if he communicates anything pretty much online, a lot of that information can be correlated with something to tell me more about him so that I can take advantage. So let's cut down, if we can, the amount of information that's out there, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's personal, whatever, and check out these types of solutions.
Exactly. And that brings me to, we're coming up almost 10:30. We talked a lot of great information just to kind of give you guys a little bit of catch up on what to do. But today's episode, we really want to talk about the wares. And why I call them the wares is because there's spyware, there's adware, there's, malware, and there's a lot of these applications. I'll call them scripts or applications that are going out there, right, that are being sent out in these packages, in these coding and underlined. So it could be in a PDF, could be in a Word document, or it could be on a banner that you're going on your website. When you click on it, there's a script running in the background, and something is happening that potentially could compromise your system, capture some information, or share, what they capture, share that information, through their system. So, Monty, what do you think of these wares? Like, what's your thought of that?
Well, it's a microcosm of what we're dealing with in terms of our two companies. We have to be aware that if we implement good secure etiquette, for instance, then hopefully we can cut down on the vulnerability. You know, the idea that we're vulnerable to the wares that's out there, and it's something that we need to we all need to concentrate on and learn as much about.
Oh, exactly. I totally agree. And I think what happens is, that's why I started the conversation about small to medium-sized business who are getting compromised the most, is because with malware, adware, spyware, these wares that are out there hit them the fastest and the easiest because they don't have the systems in place or might not even know what they're looking for. And then that's where they get compromised. So let's kind of first kind of go through some little bit of definition so people understand what are these? Like, what are we talking about? So adware is software that displays advertisement, or they call spam or adware, is a software that displays advertisements and is integral into another program offering at a no charge or low cost, some sort of benefit. So most people, it might be an ad on, buy this book, sign up for this course, anything along that line. And then a type of spyware that gathers information about the internet users, browsers' habits, and display targeted or contextual advertisement. And then what happens is they capture the information of that individual. So they might be in your cookies or your cache settings, where location, where you're coming from, what browser you're using, what device you're connecting with. So they capture all this information and then they share it out. So now we're talking about malware. Malware is any software used to disrupt computer operations, gathering sensitive information, or gain access to private computer systems. Malware is defined by its malicious intent, acting against the requirements of the computer user, and does not include software that causes unintentional harm due to some deficiencies. So what happens is when you look at like malware, it could be something that you receive in your email or something that you click on. You maybe click on a link and it starts downloading, and then you click on it and it runs in the background. And what happens is this malicious intent is to do harm to you or your system.
I'll give you guys an example. Once upon a time, we sold what we call spy phones, and there were spy phones, and they came in. Either we compromised a specific phone itself, the actual hardware. Sometimes we would make a cell phone and sell those cell phones to people. Okay, as a dedicated cell phone that was compromised. The hardware was compromised, or either we sold software. Okay, this is the bottom line. Whether we gave you a phone to give to your spouse, to give to your employees, to give to someone, teenager, whatever, so you can spy on them, right? Or either it would be hardware, or maybe we sold you the software, okay? And the software would be designed to accomplish the same thing. Once the software was put on the phone, now all the text messages, incoming and outgoing, a copy of that was sent to you, okay? Whether or not, okay. We also, if you want to listen to the intercept the actual live conversation, that was entirely possible. So that is a very specific example of something that is a very significant threat, right? If you're the victim or target, for instance. So interception of cell phone, the text messages, the voice calls, and all that, monitoring the tracking of that particular device. Those are some very specific examples of what happens with one of the things that we keep and that hold near and dear to us, because it's all we always have it with us. But at the same time, we want to be aware of the fact that this is real. Okay, I can sell you a phone that's compromised. I can give a spouse or someone software that's going to accomplish the same thing. And again, they will know everything that you're doing and everywhere you're going. And you want to be aware that it exists, just in case, so you can counter, what's going on out there.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking about like spyware and malware. I'm talking about the kind of ones that are really kind of out there that's more vicious, right? Spyware will actually, can do keyboard tracking. So what happens is every key sequence you're typing in. So if you're going to a website or you're logged into something, it can track your key sequences. So it knows that on this website, and I'll use Facebook as an example, use Facebook, that in the key sequence, you type in uppercase this, lowercase that, special character this, and also now they have your password, right? So with malware, I mean, look at Nortel, for example. the government was putting in the back door of Nortel malware so they can have a backdoor access into all routers and switches that Nortel sold to all the companies. So
exactly,
it can be used in all different senses. We're talking about a large level of or high level of security, but what we really want you guys to address is that this can happen to your laptop at Starbucks, your phone. It can happen to small devices. You don't have to be this business, this big corporation, this big business. You can be a small person that all of a sudden clicks on something that you shouldn't have, and now malware is on your system, spyware is on your system. Maybe you clicked on Adware and there's this code in the background that you might not know about, and it might be dormant until it runs later. Right? It might be something that you might not be able to catch. And then something that we're going to talk about is antivirus, anti-malware, and all these programs. The problem with this is they're great when they have the definitions. So what happens is they have the current definitions of what's going on, and then you run the scan, it's able to catch them. But these malware and adware and spyware codes are always one step ahead.
Right.
So these programs are always trying to catch up. It's never that it's perfect.
Yeah. See, the abundance of definition. I mean, the abundance of malware that comes out. Okay. Unfortunately, always is ahead because you can only update definitions and software typically so much as compared to what's being released. If there's 100,000 different types of viruses and viruses that are coming out there, and you're trying to update your database, you're playing catch up. Okay, so it's an arms race. And again, we want to give you as many practical examples as possible. I just pasted in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. You were saying.
I just want to say real quickly, our company just so happens to offer, Brandon, solutions for people who want to take advantage of the idea that there's information on individuals' devices, right? And we always talk about you may be the CEO of the major company, or you may be one of the people within the company who brings their own device. And if someone gets that device and they're using our recovery software, guess what? They can get your phone, hook it up to a computer just long enough to extract information that you intentionally try to delete or remove from that device. So this policy of bring your own device, there's good news and bad news. Okay. The good news is, the company doesn't have to put out as much for hardware and buying things, right? The bad news is if it's your own device and someone gets a hold of that device and they want to undelete text messages, phone numbers, histories of your going on chatting, et cetera, that's entirely possible. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's doable. Go ahead.
Yeah. And what I was saying is that when we come back to the antivirus, the companies, you got Symantec, you got Kaspersky, you got McAfee, and all the great companies. What they're trying to do is they're always trying to catch up, right? So you got they have what they consider as honeypots, right? And these honeypots is what they're trying to do is they're trying to capture as much malware and adware and all that so they can decode it, right, and find out what's going on and then write definitions, which we call antivirus definitions, so they can download to your system and you can update. But that's what I'm saying. It's always trying this catch up. So they're trying to catch the malware and the adware and the spyware that's out there that's being coded, and they're trying to decrypt it or decipher it, what's going on with it, and then they're writing scripts to be able to patch it and fix the systems for all types of system. If it's Windows, and all different variations of Windows. If it's Mac, all different various Mac and Linux and all that, depending on the systems that they're supporting. They're trying to do that. So you're always trying to catch up. So it's not just that, I have an antivirus program, I have an anti-malware program, an anti-adware, and it's protecting me. It's not just that. You also have to take the due diligence of what are you clicking on. You have to be, cybersecurity literate and aware that
exactly
what you're clicking on, what you're doing. So what happens, you prevent as much as your actual prevention tools are preventing. So if you're not clicking on links that you don't know about, you're not doing that, that's going to cut down the potential for you being attacked.
Now, some of the some of the ways that we're finding that we can protect our data, protect our information, do some of the things that we want to do without everyone getting access to what we're doing, who we are, and everything else. One tool that I like that you guys may want to take a look at, and Brandon can talk about his from his perspective in terms of whether or not he likes it or not. There's a Tor browser actually that I think the government, a lot of government employees, contractors, journalists, reporters, and such, when they go overseas, a lot of times they go into hostile environments and they want to report back and they want to do research on certain things and they want to browse the internet anonymously. Well, believe it or not, this Tor browser is one very effective tool, in my opinion. It's not perfect because, security is not some perfect state that you achieve and then from that point on you can relax. But one tool that you may want to put in your toolkit is the Tor browser. I think that's Tor. Right. And what do you think about that Tor browser? And how would you explain that for laymen?
So what I would say is this, is that, what it does is doesn't capture any of your private information and make it public. So basically what you're doing is it's not capturing your IP address or anything along that line. It's not caching it like, say, Chrome or Internet Explorer or Firefox does and creating a profile of you. It actually has this, disconnect of your system that it's connecting. It goes through the tunnels that it's supposed to be able to connect. But what happens is it's not storing it like most of the browsers do. Now, the only thing is that we have to be mindful of is we have different levels of users. If you're more of a power user or someone that's traveling and you can understand it, Tor browsing is probably a tool you want to look into. If you're someone like it's a home user, maybe you're a baby boomer, right? Something that there's a little bit of a learning curve, right? That you have to kind of go through of what is Tor browsing, what you can access. Because sometimes with Tor browsing, it doesn't have the plugins that a lot of things with your Flash plugins and things that you're doing that you might not be able to go to the sites that you think you want to go to. So when you look at secure surfing, it does limit the accessibility of some sites. So it doesn't have the plugins. And then the reason why they're doing it is they're trying to secure you from, compromising yourself, right? As you're out on the internet in different areas where maybe it's a little bit more security cautious that you're there. So like Monty's saying. So that's what I'm saying. When you're doing things like this, when you're doing secure browsing, when you're looking at different browsers, do your research, go through the learning curve, see how comfortable you are and what your actual goal is, your expectation is using the browser. If you're trying to just check your email and doing that and you're going to traveling the world and you don't know where your what the security is at the area that you're logged into, Tor browsing is good. But if you're trying to do Flash players and do this and all these, go into your membership site of, some website there, Tor browsing might not work, the full functionality. And it's not the actual company, it's the browser that's restricting access. So that's why I want people to make sure they understand it, because you might get some users that are using this, Monty, and then what they're doing is they're complaining that, oh my God, it doesn't work. It's not, I'm trying to get to this. I'm trying to do this one functionality. It's not working. Well, that's not what Tor browsing is for. It's more for secure browsing.
Exactly. Yes. So these tools are only as good as your implementation of the tool itself. But remember that this is the good news. When Snowden made that revelation, he actually upped the ante. And I'm going to tell you guys, this is a high Evangelos. And Evangelist can probably shed some light on how important this is as well. When the government, when the FBI and those guys come out and they start complaining about secure messaging, encryption, and how difficult that is, that tells you they are starting to spend a lot of financial and human resources in terms of trying to keep up. So this is good. This is what we want. We want everyone to work just a little bit harder. Yeah, nice seeing you too. So yeah, when we start to use more and more encryption, and the encryption is getting stronger and stronger, then that tells us, because there's I think James, Comey and Clapper, of the two leading national security agencies, they're complaining a lot about what we're doing in terms of how the encryption is making their life more difficult. Well, believe it or not, we're not supposed to make their life easier. We're all supposed to make it more difficult to get access to our private information. Corporate espionage, intellectual property theft. These are some of the things that we have to contend with. And when we start dumbing down security, that's what happens. Intellectual property goes out the door, trademarks, patents, all the things that make corporations valuable, they go out the door. So this is what we have to contend with, and they're complaining. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
Well, I think one thing we have to think about, and I want to put this out there, we're telling you guys to do this for protection. So we're not telling you for criminal or illegal use of this. We're telling you how to protect yourself, and our goal is more, white hat hacking, penetration testing, type security to help you protect yourself. So people are watching, thinking of ways of doing criminal activities and all that. That's not what we're here, and that's not what we're about. So, when we're talking about encryption, it's to protect yourself for your personal identifiable information, your business information, your financial information, so you're secure that it just doesn't go out, doesn't go public. And then this could be in the sense of encrypting on your local system, so it's just protected, or it's protecting when it goes out to the internet. I mean, we want to make sure that all this is protected. I know we're talking about the difference between adware and malware and spyware and all that, but if you can protect your information on your desktop, for example, with spyware, if you did get compromised somewhere with spyware and your data is encrypted, it's going to be harder for them to get access to. All right, and then what happens is they don't see it. So something to really kind of think about, and this is why they go hand in hand.
Well, see, a lot of these tools, the good thing about a good tool, it does bring about the potential to be taken advantage of. Okay, so that's almost the definition of a good tool. when you find that it's such a good tool that now we have to worry about the bad guys, right? That means that tool probably works very well. Otherwise, we wouldn't care so much about the effectiveness of it in terms of what happens if the bad guys get a hold of it. So yeah, so try to make sure. Yeah, again, we want to reiterate that if you want to send a text message that not everyone can read, then that's your prerogative. Okay, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. And there's a lot of very good reasons. Maybe you have a corporate communications going back and forth where you're just trying to keep your marketing ideas, etc., secret until you get the product out to the market. And you and your team, you guys have to send these things back and forth. So yeah, there are some very good reasons why these things have to be kept under wraps until you can, finally get to the point where it doesn't matter as much. One example, I had a customer who was literally, Brandon, doing exploring the oceans of South America somewhere. I can't remember where, but in the Pacific Ocean, there was a galleon going on it. And I think he called me and said, him and his team were trying to communicate back and forth and retrieve this treasure trove, was worth millions and millions of dollars. And they wanted encrypted phones. Now, as you can imagine, everybody and their brother-in-law looking at this expedition would probably want to know who, what, when, and where, right? So so you have 9 million vessels out there parked all of a sudden trying to figure out, where the gold was. So yeah, he wanted encrypted phones so that they can communicate, get access to the bounty and get it out of the ocean and bring it up. But yeah, that had to be kept secret for long enough for those guys to conclude that operation.
Oh, exactly. I mean, look at Evangelist just posted a YouTube video talking about a live hack at CE Bit Global Conference in 2015. So there's compromise happening all the time.
Right. Exactly. Right.
And the one thing, I mean, it's one of those things that we're always trying to keep up. We're always trying to keep up of security practices, security policies, what's happening, what's being out there. Because, I mean, when we're talking about, again, but going back to, spyware, adware, malware, all the wares out there, there's people that are maliciously writing code right now as we speak and putting out new code out there to compromise your system. Doesn't matter what, and they're trying to. They're trying to get into Windows. They're trying to get into the Macs. So they're doing what if they can. And what happens is a lot of the stuff, and this is what we have to think about, is easily accessible online. They might take one code and modify it. Right? They might find one that's out there and go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to update it because the code's a little outdated and they need to do this. This is go to this directory. And also now that's a new malware definition that gets out there, and then it gets past the antiviruses because it's different. It's updated. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when we look at security awareness, you guys have to think about on a personal level and a business level is to always educate yourself and educate the people around you. And that's why, I started that cybersecurity community at knssconsulting.com for people that have all different generations. And we've kept it very cost effective for people to come in and ask questions and constantly be educated. And the goal in mind was to educate the public. This is not the high corporations or business. It's to educate the public, because it's the public that's getting most effective. We talked about this earlier in this blab, in this recording, is that with CRA, 1,000 calls per day from Ontario. They're getting 1,000 new calls of people being compromised from the CRA, the social engineering phishing attack. Well, if that's happening, 1,000 calls per day, you see how many people don't know what to do, are being compromised and going, okay, what do I do? Or they've been compromised. Now, how do they get their money back? Right? They've been compromised where they paid the $3,000. They provide their credit card number, which we know now, forget about it. They've given their credit card number. Now that could be sold online. Now the person's got paid too. So now it's two compromises in one. All right. So something to think about as we're talking here is, guys, we really want you to spread the word, get the message out here. If you're watching this now or you're watching this later, make sure that you're sharing this out with your family, your friends, your colleagues, your clients, your vendors, your subcontractors, everyone, because it's a 360 degree. It's a spider web of where that compromise can come from. And it's the point of least expectation is that you're sitting there going, oh, they're secure. They must have security, and they don't. Right? Because they're unaware.
Yeah, we talked about, again, the idea that if we're all securing, for instance, our little portion of the internet, okay, then what happens is ultimately you have this web that ultimately becomes more stronger, right? So, yeah, if I do my part and Brandon can do his part, Evangelist can do his part, what happens is now we're making it a little bit more difficult, because each and every individual is doing a little bit more, becoming a little bit more aware of how to protect ourselves, our companies, our families, etc. So that makes it a more difficult as this spreads out to our friends, relatives, associates, etc., etc. So if we can do our individual parts, then that'll ultimately help make the web stronger.
Well, this is the thing. Even in my small community, even today, there's people that I talk to. I was talking to someone this morning and telling about the CRA attack, and they were like, I never knew. I have no clue. And he goes, I got that call and I hung up, but I didn't know what to do. And here's the thing. I got that call, but I didn't know what to do. And that's kind of a scary point to be, is when they're not empowered. Right? And that's what I'm saying, is that's why we need to share this information out, so they're empowered of what to do. When I called this RCMP, and I talked to him, it was a late on Saturday night, and luckily I got through. But they're getting 1,000 calls a day to their call center, and through the busy times. Imagine trying to get through. And you're scared, you don't know what to do, and now you're like, oh my God, I've got compromised. I spent $3,000. I paid them $3,000. Now how do I get that back? What do I do? I gave my credit card information, gave my personal identifiable information. Now what do I do? So it's kind of all these compromises. One, now these people are now even more in a fear state, because now they know they've been compromised. They know that first they were scared because of the actual threat of the social engineering, and now they've been compromised. Now it's just they feel so vulnerable, and that's why the person was telling me, like the RCMP people were telling me that the people that are calling are in tears. Right? Because now they're so scared, they don't know what to do, and now they know they're compromised, so they've been violated twice. So that's why I'm saying, right now, when it comes to malware, it comes to adware and spyware and all these compromises, these threat vectors that are out there, people need to be educated, because if you're empowered, then you have control, and then you can sit there and kind of go, you know what? Yes, I know what that is. I know what you're trying to do. No, thank you. I'm not interested. And now you feel empowered. You've stopped the threat. You've stopped the compromise. You knew what to do, and you're able to get out of it.
Well,
just
real quick, just as an example of how, our federal government, our banking system, at the highest levels are also under siege. Okay, there's a lot of discovery going on with how significant the compromising of our SWIFT system is. Now, our SWIFT system is basically a international payment transfer mechanism where the biggest banks, and there's probably 1,000 or more of them, they send messages along with requests to transfer millions and millions of dollars all over the globe. And believe it or not, their systems have been compromised to the point where $81 million went missing on one occasion, and at least $20 million has been discovered gone missing. And as Brandon pointed out, what happens is you discover after the fact that your systems were compromised months and months ago, right? But guess what happens? The malware stays dormant until a certain given point in time, and then it activates. And it activates usually at the most vulnerable time for you, when there's less staff, less security, less eyes on the transactions, for instance, with the SWIFT banking system. So yeah, if we have the largest institutions, our Federal Reserve, if their banking systems or payment transfer systems are being compromised, and those guys are pretty much at a loss right now in terms of how to fix that system right away, because how extensive this can be. So if they're scratching their heads trying to figure out how to fix those major problems on that level, then we know that we have to really do our part, because it's a learning process. And the more we share this information, the more we take a look at what we can do individually, then the better off we're all going to be.
Exactly. And then Evangelist was saying people are too naive to think that there is no threat. Someone installed a new hard drive for a friend of mine with malware. They stole $5,000 from his account from a PC ripper job. Wow. So I mean, this is just
repair job. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if it was a repair or a ripper, because I
think a repair job probably.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah, it could be that. If Evangelist wants to confirm that, because I know like the ripper programs. That's what I was saying. Like there's programs that'll rip your hard drive and rip all the information. That's why I didn't know if he meant repair or ripper.
Oh, yeah, right? There you go. Right.
Right. I mean, when we secure, we have to think both ways, right? Did they?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's scary. I mean, you don't know. You try to go to the people that you trust. And this is why, like I said, we set up this community and then set up these blabs to be a source of people where they can come in and say, hey, I have this question. What do I do? Here's this scenario I have, what happens? And sometimes, because it's private, whatever, they might be able to use third persons, my friend, he did this, what happens if that, he did this with the system and, what can I do? What can he do to repair it? So we can kind of go through scenarios. It doesn't have to be, you're releasing your private information. We don't want to compromise you as well, right? So, I mean, this is why these blabs and these, events are so important. I mean, we're on episode 20 right now, and I'm going to keep going until we start getting the community to come in and start to really engage, because we're seeing the stats, Monty and I, where even when I was reading today, or on the weekend, where there's going to be over 1.5 billion small to medium-sized, companies. I think it was 1.5 billion revenue or loss of breaches and their cost of dollars of small to medium-sized business. So that's the numbers they were using: $1.5 billion in loss, compromises. So it was ransomware, England online. So you think of a small business, and just kind of hit this home. If your small business is making $100,000 a year, and you get compromised and have to spend out $20,000 in one shot, how is it going to affect your business? Is that could potentially, like Monty and I talked about earlier, is that going to close your business? Right? Something you put all your sweat equity, you've done all this great stuff with, you've set up your business, your branding, your marketing, your website, you've done all this, your clients love you, all this great, and you get this one compromise for 20 grand. Does that put you out of business? And this is what we're trying to prevent, is making sure that people have things in place where you don't get compromised. Or if you do, it's a small compromise where you can get up and going within a short period of time and not have this big payout that you have to do. And I mean, this is why it's so important so people are aware. And it's not just business. I mean, you got to think of, you can compromise little Jimmy, who maybe is 13 years old and playing on their iPad, could click on an ad by accident because they're using a free application and there's an ad there. And they click on that, and that spyware or adware goes throughout your whole network. So it's something to really know. And then Evangelist says other notable ransomware threats that have successful robbed users during the past year are CryptoLocker. We've heard about that. Toller Dash Bit, CryptoTax ransomware, Alpha Crypt Los Polis, or Mantis Locker, and then notable examples of exploits kits that have recently been detected are Nuclear Exploit, Kit Rig Exploit, or Rig Exploit Kit. Give me a second here. I'm just reading them all here. Recent use deliver crypto wall, Hanawa Exploit Kit, also known as Timba, Trojan, and Forbid. So, I mean, there's just more and more. I mean, we can go on and on about all the exploits that, and it's great. Thank you, Evangelist, to bring those up. But as you can see, I mean, just sitting here doing research and talking, you can find out so many exploits out there. So what we're talking about is educate yourself, be cybersecurity literate, know what's going on, and then go from there is how to protect yourself moving forward.
Welcome. I think we just got another person.
Yeah, just Ryan's jumping in.
Hey, Ryan. Yeah. Hi, Ryan.
So, I mean, this is the thing that like, just kind of finish that off is that's why Monty and I are talking about, Monty's talking about cybersecurity literacy, right? And having the literacy and understanding the education, so you're up to date. And if you don't have the literacy, coming out to these blabs to get the literacy of ongoing. All right, well, that's the point for us.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. My wife, for instance, she raised a couple of young boys. And once upon a time, you know how kids are. They're doing all these things at home, and you don't know what's going on and all that. And at that time, we didn't have the nanny cameras that we have now, the surveillance and the different things that my company sells, for instance, and rents out. We didn't have that available. And I talk to a lot of parents nowadays. And guess what? Now we can tell them, yeah, we have a solution for you. If things are going on in your home and the kids are doing certain things they shouldn't be doing, whatever, we have a way where you can check that and see what's going on and just make sure that they're okay, make sure they're safe. And the same thing applies in the cyberspace, right? If it's your laptop, your desktop, your network at home or at business or something, we need to educate ourselves that there are tools available. So now we can make sure that we are not allowing our companies to be compromised, because there are some real world examples where entire companies have been have filed bankruptcy, for instance, because they wake up one morning and everything is gone, right? The bank account is looted and the accounts have been compromised and transferred, put online, or whatever. And so, yeah, we're in a different age right now, and believe it or not, it's not that difficult to do these cyber attacks for different reasons. Okay, damage your credibility as a company, expose all your customer information, like with the dating service,
Ashley
Madison, right? There's various different ways now that information is being used to cause a disruption at your company in your personal lives.
Well, I mean, you're looking at the compromise in the sense of you're talking about credibility, industry standard, industry credibility as well, because your own personal credibility and your industry standard credibility. You're looking at your credit, your identity, like all these things can be compromised. So that's why, security is such an important part now to look at. And with the Internet of Things coming out and all the different devices and all the compromise that happen there, you can have malware on, your fridge, your stove, your heating, like you name it. So really kind of thinking about how to protect yourself, how to keep things clean. Or if you don't know, then making sure that you talk to people that can help you and educate you. So Monty, we've got one more minute to the end of the show. What would you like was there one tip, one kind of, golden nugget you'd like to give people?
Let's see. Just make sure you guys understand that and look at the show notes, because there's some very specific tools. Okay, get one tool out of all the apps and tools that we're offering, and Brandon's going to have them again in the show notes. Get one tool, use it. I don't care if it's an ad blocker. I don't care if it's for secure text messaging. I don't care if it's a Tor browser. Make sure you understand that if we can look at one tool at a time, what does it do? When can I use it? If I can't use it, pass it along. Make someone else aware of it, so that eventually we spread the idea that there are tools out there. Because, like I made the illustration I made with the nanny cameras and the trackers and things that we provide. If you don't know that they're there, then guess what? You're gonna be in the dark. You're gonna scratch your head, think that there is no solution, right? I have to just put up with things as the way they are, but you don't. So yeah, take a look at the specific tools, learn one of them, try it out, and see how you can use it in your personal and your professional lives.
Well, the one thing that you bring up, and when you look at applications, here I want to follow it.
It's to get off Facebook.
That's what Brian's on Facebook. One thing I want to say is, if you're using applications, make sure that you do the research. You do your due diligence, you do the reviews. You make sure that it's a valid application, because free software, free antivirus, freedom sometimes comes with malware or spyware inside of it. You might think you're protecting your system, but you're actually relaying information. So do the research and do your due diligence. There's a lot of great tools out there, like Monty's saying, but do the research on them, because you don't want to get compromised while you're trying to protect yourself, right? And now you're in this vicious cycle that, oh yeah, I tried to protect myself, but I got compromised by the tool I used, so now I don't want to protect myself anymore. No. Make sure that you do the research, that even the tools that we're going to recommend, that there's the ones that we've been using in our systems and our clients. Also, if you find one that you're like, oh man, can you do some research? We'll do the research for you. If you join the community, we'll do the research for you. That we'll tell you the good, the bad, the positive, negative reviews. So what happens? You don't have to do that, and maybe some things you don't understand. You don't know what it's about, so we can answer those questions for you.
Okay, Parent Dome says, unfortunately, people don't know how to define what a compromise would include. Unfortunately, people don't know how to define what a compromise would include.
So like privacy, identity, things like that. I mean, we talked a little bit about earlier, Ryan, what we were talking about is basically a compromise. And so people, to answer Ryan's question here, a compromise could be anything that takes you out of your normal day-to-day functional life. So in the sense, if it's your computer, if it takes it down, captures your information, or things that are unauthorized or things that you don't want, out there, that's generally a compromise. So you look at someone compromise you over the phone, where you give personal information, where someone compromises you through your computer. They get access to information or data that you don't want them access. They got compromised online. Those are compromises, that something that you feel violated, that something that is access that they are not supposed to have access to. So kind of in a layman's term, kind of a quick answer. And then there's a video up before that he was Evangelist posted about Kevin Mitnick. That he's a well-known hacker. It was showing
Mitnick. Yeah, Mitnick, probably.
Yeah, he's a well-known hacker. That was there's a conference of a live hack at CE Bit. So, guys, we're going to finish up the show now. Just one last thing, Monty. What do you want to cover next week?
Let's see. Next week, we probably let me see here. I think something e-commerce related.
E-commerce, okay.
Yeah.
So keep posted, guys. What we'll do is we'll do cybersecurity on e-commerce. Right now, I know that's a big topic, so we'll probably narrow it down. Monty and I'll talk after, but it'll be about e-commerce.
Right. Maybe payment related or something.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So, guys, don't forget, follow Monty. If you guys are watching the show later, follow Monty at his on Blab or at Twitter. You can follow me as well. You can follow me at YouTube. Come to my website, www.knssconsulting.com. Subscribe for my newsletter. We've got all this great information that's going out. It's going to be emailed right into your box, as well as if you're looking for security support, you need information, join my community. It's only $47 a month. It's easy for you to do, and there's a lot of great people there that you can ask questions for. So, guys, I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
Okay, you guys take care, and thanks for joining Evangelos, Parent Dome, and the rest of you. Thanks for joining and appreciate it. Bring a friend, relative, enemy, associate back with you next time. All right, take care.
Awesome.